Hi, everybody. This is Cassandra. Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Hi. Hi, Jill. Hi, Jill.
Hey, Burgess. This is Cassandra. Can you hear me this time?
I can.
Okay, great. Thank you.
I can hear you as well, Cassandra.
Very good. Thank you, Jill.
Hello, this is Dwayne.
Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Hello, Mayor Hill. This is Jill Kaiser. I'm calling because the police officers' pension meeting is due to start.
Greg Cummings here, test.
All right, good evening. Good afternoon. Do we have everyone?
Yes. Would you like me to do roll call?
Yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is our September 15th Police Pension Board meeting. Roll call it. We'll have roll call at this time.
Captain Williams,
Present.
Lieutenant Mast,
Present.
Mr. Cummings,
Present.
and Mayor Hill.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? If so, I'll entertain a motion.
Captain Williams, you're muted. Okay.
There we go.
Is there a motion?
I motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Put a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Greg Cummings, second.
Got a second by Greg Cummings. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to item 3 of the agenda.
Hello, good afternoon.
Capital City, Dwayne Madron, Capital City.
Good afternoon, Dwayne Madron. Up in front of you is the report for the second quarter. And Jill, if you could please scroll down a little bit to the policy review. We can see where at this point in time, we were overweight in cash. But since then, I have moved 800,000 to Sawgrass because I had sold some equities, and because we were bumping our head on the 70% equity target. So that's why you see a little bit extra cash there, which is now down to about 2. So anyhow, I've been overweighting large US companies at the expense of being underweight the other asset segments of the market, such as small cap and mid cap and infrastructure and REIT. And because I feel, and we feel, the best growth still lies in technology like the Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Google of the world. And it has worked out well. Year to date, the market has bounced back, partly because the Federal Reserve made a commitment to do whatever it takes to backstop the economy, but also because many technology companies are not directly affected by the virus. In fact, some of them were helped when people shopped online. So international is a group of stocks largely made up of banks and healthcare companies. And there's not a lot of technology in that index. So the growth is not as robust overseas as it is here. Small companies tend to waver during recessions. Mid-cap does a little better because they're a little larger and have more diversified revenue streams. And then REITs, most of the REITs have done okay, except for shopping centers, hotels, but they make up about 12% of the index. Healthcare, warehouses, and apartments have done okay. So if there's no questions there, we're going to keep our overweight to equities and US equities for the time being. If you could please scroll down, Jill, to the performance. There we go. And this is talking about calendar years through June. Through June, year to date, the count is down 4.97%. Still recognizing that the virus hit hard in March, but then April, May, June, July, and August have been terrific. The last quarter, the count was up 19.4, 21.5 on the equity, which exceeded the S&P 500. Bonds were up because interest rates fell, which causes the price of bonds to go up. So the bonds have done a terrific job, and real estate is bouncing back, as you can see. Things are getting much better. There's more optimism now than there was 4 months ago. Next year's forecast from many economists is even better than this year. This fall is supposed to be better than the summer, and especially once the election is over, I think you'll see the market move forward, because right now there's uncertainty in the air up until November. So if you can please scroll down, Jill, I have July. Through July, we're almost flat at minus 0.22. Latest quarter was 13.3. Equities is up 14 for the last quarter ending July. So you can see July, things were even better. Real estate is getting better. Bonds were still doing a terrific job. And, equities were down 1.7 year to date. And through July, which was a good month, things are better, and August was an even better month. And Jill, if you could please scroll down a little bit to the asset allocation. So here you go. As of September 9th, market value was 11,278,203. That does not include the infrastructure. We're at 57% equity, which is a moderate equity position. Fixed income is 29%. The cash was 9%, which is now lower. Then real estate was at 3.14%, which is about as low as it's been. This reflects the movement of money to Sawgrass, and so we're about 5% under our equity cap, and we're going to let that float up in the next few weeks and months as we begin to enter earnings season. Jill, if you could go ahead and scroll down, we could look at the custodian's report. There are the mutual funds and the bonds that we own that Sawgrass manages. Then there's some mutual funds that make up your account. And really, that's all I have to say, is that things are getting much better, and the U.S. large companies are doing a terrific job. Any questions? Burgess, do you want to?
What's that?
I said, Burgess, did you have any questions?
No, I not really. I'll make some comments when my turn comes, but
Okay, well,
you're doing a good
that
job.
concludes my comments. Thank you.
Entertain a motion at this point since we don't have any questions.
Williams makes a motion to accept Capital City's report.
There's a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
Scott and Mass, second the motion.
Got a motion on the floor in a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Madron. Next up, BCI, Burgess Chambers.
Thank you, Mayor, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. Let me, before I begin, generally, I'd like to just talk about our mission. And our mission here is to achieve the actuarial rate of return assumption over rolling 4-year periods, and certainly over the long term. Secondly, to have a portfolio of assets that are liquid, that are transparent, that are marketable. And third, to defray costs, to keep the costs of running the plan at a reasonable level. And I'll just use that to segue where your costs are. You're running at about 0.2% for the management fees associated with these funds that you see in the portfolio at the bank. That represents roughly $2,000 per $1 million of assets, 0.2%. Your peer group costs probably average closer to 60 basis points. So you're running very lean, and you have for years since I've been involved here. You're paying about a third of what your peer group are paying. So, and the performance is quite good. So we're going to get into that in just a minute. Jill, can I take you to page 1, please? Those of you, some of you have probably read this. If you haven't read it, I'm not offended, so don't worry about that. But this is a very interesting summary of really what's happened this year, not only what happened in the February-March sell-off, which was dramatic, but we've seen a 60% recovery in the equity market since the bottom in March. And as Dwayne Madron mentioned a few moments ago, the Federal Reserve stepped in March and said, we're going to make this credit markets liquid again. We're going to be a buyer of bonds. And they were. And for the first time, I think in the history of their history, they actually bought corporate bonds. Generally, they don't do that. They buy agency securities, mortgages, U.S. treasuries, and so forth. They don't buy corporate bonds, but they did that. And as soon as they started that process, markets were convinced that, as Dwayne mentioned, that they would be the backstop for the recovery. What's strange about this market is that while the stock market has been raging forward now, back up 60% since the bottom, the general economy is not all that strong. And I think a lot of people are wondering what is going on. Well, one thing I'll tell you is that the average stock still is in negative territory since the beginning of the year. The reason why the indices are up in positive territory, at least the growth and core value is still negative, is because the indexes are concentrated with just a handful of names. 10, 15 stocks are really driving the returns, for example, of the S&P 500 index. So just because the S&P 500 is up 6% since January 1st, that does not mean that the stock market is up 6%, because most stocks are still in negative territory. All right, Jill, if I could ask you please to go to page 4. Jill's doing a super job with these slides. Perfect. The strategy on this program is 65% weighting in equities. I would not say that's aggressive. We do have some clients that are at 70, and we have 1 or 2 that are closer to 73. And the program includes other assets in the equity category, namely convertible bonds, which we can't characterize as equities, but really they're very bond-like. The state requires them to be treated as equities. You can see the quarterly return, 14.5% ahead of the strategic model. And that's because Dwayne was, with his steady hand, was able to keep an overweight to domestic equities and an underweight to international and the REIT. And I should mention that the rankings for the quarter were in the top 15th percentile, which is quite impressive. What that means is that compared to other defined benefit or pension plans across the country, from Seattle to Key West, you outperformed 85% of them. A similar situation or story in terms of ranking occurred for the year, the rolling 1 year period, which unfortunately captures the first quarter, but you still ranked in the top 24th percentile. And you'll note in both the quarter and the year, the best performing asset category were the convertible bonds. And I should mention too that as a consulting firm, we use and recommend convertibles as an asset class. And our peers or other consulting firms are still trying to figure out what to do with convertibles. And I think we've kind of led the pack in that regard. The 10-year average for this program, you've earned 7.2 million over 10 years, averaging 8% gross, and after fees somewhere in the 7.6 to 7.7 area. That's net. All right, I'll stop there and see if you have any questions about anything so far. Let's go to page 6. Go ahead. Page 6. You open the door, please. I can barely breathe because of the chemical. If you go to page 6, you can see 10 years ago, you were at 7,135,000. The program has grown to 11.2 million. And the plan has, on a net basis, has experienced about a 3.1 million outflow during that period. And that number is defined as this. You have inflows coming from the city's contribution, the employees withholding, and the state Chapter 185 money. The outflows are primarily payouts to retirees. But what's I think impressive is that the investment returns during this period were twice what you spent on a net basis. On page 7, and I'll kind of wrap it up here, open it up. This is another way to look at the allocation in terms of the targets versus the actual. You can see the big overweight of 14.4% to domestic equities. This has been a very helpful occurrence for you, because this is where really globally, this is where your money needed to be, the USA and not overseas. And then you look down at the rest of the categories, notably the underweight to international and fixed income were favorable in terms of your total outcome. I guess the last page or so I'd like to show you would be page 10 and 11. You can see in the QTD or quarter to date column the dramatic rebound in 2Q. You can see it in the domestic equities, and the green domestic equity piece is really the compilation of a roll up of those three subcategories, the 22.2%. What's striking though, if you move your eyes down the page, is that the convertible bonds were up 27.2%. They did better than your domestic equity composite. And if you run your view across from left to right, you can see for the fiscal year to date, same story, 18.8 versus 2.2, 18.5 for the year versus 3.2, and so on. So the convertibles have been an incredible asset category for you, and really enabled the plan to put out some big numbers. Look at the very top in the blue, that in the parentheses next to the returns, you can see the rankings For 5 years, 38th percentile, 3 years, 29th, top 29, top 24, top 30th, and so on. The 10-year number is around 52, which is about the middle of, that's the just about the median, which is 50. And certainly results on a peer basis have improved dramatically in the last 5 years versus the prior 5 years. Those are really the high points. I would suspect that fiscal year to date, with the big recovery we've seen in July and August, you're probably looking at somewhere in the 10%, 10 to 12% area is what we're anticipating for the fiscal year. So if we get another, if this next 2 weeks we hold on, you should have a positive actuarial experience, and Patrick can certainly weigh in on that. And that's all I have.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just
again,
looking. Hey, this is Patrick. I was just looking at the, we needed 8.4% for this fiscal year in order to have our 4-year average be above 7.6. So as long as we beat 8.4 this year, we'll have an actuarial gain on the investment side.
it's always a good thing. We'll keep our fingers crossed, Patrick.
Exactly. That would be awesome in the middle of COVID to end up with that. That's awesome.
So I'll go ahead and entertain a motion to approve the report from BCI.
Count Williams makes a motion to accept the report from Burgess.
Thank you.
Greg Cummings, second.
There, Greg Cummings has a second. Is there any further discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. Burgess, I thought we'd get one.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Next up, Foster and Foster.
All right, about a year ago, we developed some new software that allows members to log in and do benefit calculations anytime they want.
Yes.
They can project their salary and look at different joint annuitants or beneficiaries,
No,
different dates they want to retire.
do it later.
A real nice piece of software, but you know it's kind of costly to develop and program and use, and so I just wanted to make you guys aware of it, and if you're interested in it at all, we could come and do a presentation, a demonstration for you. So that's what the purpose of this letter was.
We're going to volunteer to be your pilot study for free.
Well, that's a nice offer, but that's not really going to work. We already have a bunch of people using it. So like you have about 29 active police officers right now. So if you went with option 1 there, then the annual fee would be $3,500. So you can tell that's a little over $100 a member per year. And then they could do unlimited calculations whenever they wanted.
Greg Cummings here. What's our current system for our employees in the police department to get this information?
They can request a calculation to be done. It costs them $200. If it is simply that they're going to be retiring and the calculation needs to be done because they have already determined they're retiring, it costs the employee nothing.
Now, will they still have to require, I guess, on retirement, then no impact to the employee, and finance has all of the data needed to make that calculation, and that's actually the official calculation over?
Most
Yeah.
fire boards are still, if they do the software, they're still having us do final calculations just to make sure, because you know, when we do a final calculation, it gets peer reviewed and all that, just to make sure. But if what we've decided is that if for a couple of years we're doing that process and everyone is matching exactly, then we'll probably get off of that. But for now, we're still doing final calculations.
Yeah, I'm just comparing to kind of the federal system where there are a number of calculators that could estimate, but the official one really has to come out of our HR and financial folks before we call it a day over.
Is there a cost when, is there a cost for that final calculation to the, I know it doesn't go to the employee, but is there a cost associated with that?
Yes.
Yeah, $200 is what we charge whenever we do a benefit calculation for somebody.
Okay, so like, so if we were to go with this program, we would, there would be no cost at all to the employee other than the fact that we would be paying the $3,500 a year.
Yeah, and the board or slash city would probably pay the $3,500 a year.
And then, so for that final calculation that we still kind of need to make sure that's correct, is there a cost for that too?
Yeah, we would still charge $200 because we have to do the calculation, get it peer reviewed. It still takes, you know, almost as much time for us.
Do we have some type of record or data that shows like how often our employees actually look for a calculation?
Well, the problem is that right now, as you said, if they want to just do an estimate, and they have to pay $200. So in the last, you know, year or two, you haven't had any that have done that.
Do you think that's because there is that $200 fee?
Sure. I mean, if you did this, I'm sure people would utilize it. But yes, they're not utilizing the $200 at this point.
They also get every year a green form
Right.
that explains what an estimated pension is going to be based on the fiscal year end monies that they've contributed and the number of years and their wages.
Captain Williams, to add on to what you were asking and saying, I think part of our issue is also that we don't have people that have made it to 7 years in a while. So that's why that number is way down for
Right.
people asking for that figure.
I got you.
Most people are asking for their refund amount.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I just wanted to propose it and tell you it's out there. You don't have to do anything with it. I just wanted to at least make you guys aware of it.
Let me ask this question. Is the demo free?
Yeah, we can give you a demonstration. It's not something that you would use, but we could show you, you know, and show you exactly how it works and that kind of thing.
Right.
The fire board decided not to go forward with it, but it's entirely up to you.
I'm going to guess from the silence that I think we're probably opting not to, it sounds like.
I think it may be a useful tool at some point. I think getting the demonstration may be the piece that kind of sells it.
Yeah.
And it goes, I mean, I think ultimately it all goes along with having just another piece that gives some level of financial literacy to the employees, so that they can start to plan for their retirement and their future based upon what they're contributing and doing a whole bunch of other things.
Well, I'll probably come and present the valuation report in February. So I could just bring you a demonstration at that point.
That sounds good.
Yeah, that's good. We'll definitely look forward to that.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's all I have for today.
Okay. Any questions?
So I make a motion that we accept the report from Foster and Foster.
Is there a second?
Rick Cummings, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimous. Moving on to Klausner.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's good to be here. I'm going to keep my report short today. As you know, COVID has taken over everything since mid-March, and it's been quite a whirlwind for all of us, I think, but especially for police officers who are considered essential workers and must work even during the pandemic. So there's been research that shows that police officers are contracting the disease at a higher rate or are contracting it more frequently. And with that, there was a law that was signed August 14th, 2020, called the Safeguarding America's First Responders Act of 2020. And our office put out a memo on it earlier or late last month. It says that if a police officer contracts COVID, then the law provides that it is a line of duty, death, or disability. If the police officer dies, it's a presumed line of duty death, and if there's a disability associated with it, it's a line of duty disability. There are 3 criteria to qualify for these benefits, and the benefits are under the Public Safety Officer Benefits Program, which provides a payment to surviving spouses and children of police officers who die in the line of duty. So the line of duty qualifications was expanded based on COVID-19. So the criteria include that the public safety officer must be engaged in a line of duty activity or action between January 1, 2020 and December 31st, 2021. So there are those 2 dates, which we are in the middle of currently. The next one is that the public safety officer must receive a diagnosis of COVID-19 or there's evidence to indicate that he or she had it during the 45-day period beginning on his or her last day of duty. Those 2 are for disability. So to qualify for a line of duty disability, the police officer must contract COVID-19 January 1, 2020, or at the latest of December 31st, 2021. And then they must have received the diagnosis during the 45-day period, the last day of duty. And the last criteria would be for a line of duty death. There's evidence indicating that the public safety officer had COVID-19 or complications from the disease at the time of his or her death. I think the death benefits now are about $365,000. Again, they go to surviving spouses and children. Our office, obviously, we hope that this never has to happen, but our office does assist our clients, surviving spouses pro bono in filling out these federal death benefit applications because they are quite lengthy. And, during the time of losses, everything, all the help is appreciated. So we do it at no cost. Are there any questions about that? No? Our office is currently working on 2 death benefit applications based on COVID. So hopefully we don't get any more, but unfortunately it's out there. The next item, which is just the extension of the executive order that allows our boards to continue meeting virtually, is good through the end of September. This marks the seventh extension since March. So we will monitor the executive orders as they come through to see if it is further extended. Again, our office works closely with the governor's office. Bob is, I guess he works with them all the time, trying to keep extending these executive orders, at least through December is what I've heard from our office. So again, we'll keep everybody in the loop, and I just hope everybody stays safe. And if there's any other questions, just let me know.
Yeah, I have one question. When you look at the executive orders that have gone out under the CARES Act during the pandemic, are there any orders that that you've seen that create any concern or even the potential for long-term concern? I know there's an order that deals specifically with deferment of withholding on E5s and above that have military service, and there are a couple payroll exceptions to those orders that were in place. Or is there anything that's of concern or that you've had to deal with during the pandemic that we need to be looking at?
For withholdings, are you talking about income tax withholdings?
No, they're doing a withholding on the they're doing a withholding on on pay. So they're all there. Basically, the E5s and above have the ability to withhold, to keep this. The employer can not withhold the taxes off of there and give them full pay and defer the payments out under the 941s. No. But has there been anything as it relates to any of the executive orders that we need to be looking at outside of what we just discussed?
Not that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything outside. Generally, or always, if there's anything going on pension related that we need to keep our eye on, then somebody in our office will flag it and then circulate it through to the other attorneys. I haven't seen anything else that you all need to be aware of. I will certainly double check and confer with the other attorneys to see if they have anything else that they've seen. And I can definitely report back to you and to Jill and to the board.
Okay, nope. Anything else
All
on the
right,
board?
thank you.
Is there any other questions from the board?
All right, if none, then everybody please stay safe. Again, I will check into these executive orders and to see if there's anything else even outside the orders that you all should be mindful of. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Next up, our expenditures. Ms. Keisner?
Yes, this is a list of the expenditures from the beginning of the fiscal year in October through June 30th. They are also on the side grouped by investment expense versus admin expense. Admin expense being the attorney, Foster and Foster, and liability coverage, any expense that has to do with my being involved in the pension.
We can't see your shared screen.
You can't.
I can't.
Okay. Is it a problem for anyone else?
Yeah, I don't have it either.
I can't see it.
Maybe it's slow loading. We're having some difficulty understanding you. I am. You're cutting in and out. If I go back to the agenda, can you see the agenda now?
No, now we've previously been able to see your shared screen, but we can't see it now for some reason.
Huh. Okay. It may be we lost connectivity. I would hate to try loading everything up again. Oh, yeah. I have someone here to help. Hold on.
It's on your edge. This one.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Courtney.
So that is the expenditure report.
Scroll down a little bit.
Sure. These are the deposits that were made. Contributions from the city and the employees each month.
Okay, any questions on the expenditures? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept expenditures as provided?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to accept the expenditures as reported.
Is there a second?
Greg Cummings, second. Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
No.
carries unanimously. Next up, our final item is public comment. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. No action will be taken on topics of discussion. Anyone wishing to speak during public comment can speak by way of the chat, and no action will be taken on items of discussion.
I will ask Courtney if she has seen a public comment. Just one moment.
Anyone else wishing to speak during public comment, please dial 386-329-0100.
There is no public comment.
Seeing nothing in the chat and not hearing the phones ring, we will go ahead and close public comment at this time. Ms. Kaiser, what do we have tentatively for our next meeting?
There are no changes to the agenda except that Sawgrass will be presenting their report at the next meeting. I believe that is December 15th.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else from the board? Any closing comments? Lieutenant Colonel, going once.
All is well. You guys be safe out there.
All right, definitely you be safe as well. And we hope you guys fare well with the hurricane.
Hey, Greg,
Yes, sir.
that palm tree isn't moving very much in the background there.
Well,
Don't you have
that's
hurricane up there?
that's that fake one. But when I look outside my real window, it's moving pretty good. A lot of rain.
You all be safe. Thank you.
Hi, guys.
Definitely.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
And thanks to everyone. We will go ahead and adjourn the meeting now if there is a motion.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
By general consent, we'll be adjourned. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thanks, Mayor.